What if I told you the real reason Jude Bellingham became one of the best footballers on the planet has almost nothing to do with talent? Yes, he's fast. Yes, he's strong. Yes, he can do things with a football that make grown professionals look average. But underneath all of that, there's a story most fans have never heard. A story about a mother who left her entire life behind. A father who worked night shifts as a police officer, then trained on the exact same day. A family that quietly split themselves in half, just so one son could chase a dream without the other being left behind. This isn't just a football story. This is a story about sacrifice. Real sacrifice. The kind that doesn't show up in the stat sheets, doesn't get you a trophy, and rarely gets talked about on TV. By the end of this video, you're going to look at Jude Bellingham completely differently. Let's get into it. Before we talk about Jude, we have to talk about his dad, because honestly, this story doesn't make sense without him. Mark Bellingham wasn't a famous footballer. He never played in the Premier League. He never had his face on a poster. But in the world of non-league football, the amateur and semi-professional leagues most fans never watch, Mark Bellingham was something close to a legend. Over more than 2 decades, playing for clubs most people have never heard of, he scored over 700 goals. 700. People in that world nicknamed him the non-league Pele. But here's the part that really gets me. Mark wasn't just a footballer. He was a sergeant with the West Midlands Police. A real job, with real responsibility, protecting real people. And somehow, he managed to do both at the same time. Playing football matches, and then, some nights, heading straight from the changing room into a night shift for the police force. Think about that rhythm for a second. Play a match, shower, put on a police uniform, go protect a city. That was Mark Bellingham's life for years. Not glamorous, not easy, just relentless, quiet discipline. And that discipline? It didn't stay with Mark. It got passed down, straight into the home where he was raising 2 young boys in Stourbridge, in the West Midlands of England. Jude Victor William Bellingham was born on June 29th, 2003 in Stourbridge. His mother, Denise, came from a Kenyan background and worked in human resources, the kind of steady, organised profession that would end up defining her role in the family for years to come. 2 years later, his little brother Job was born. From the very beginning, this wasn't a house full of luxury, it was a house full of values. Jude has said in past interviews that before his parents were great at anything else, they were simply great people, and that growing up around them taught him how to treat others without ever needing to be told directly. Both of his parents came from working class backgrounds, and that mattered because it meant Jude wasn't just handed a dream. He watched his parents build one, brick by brick, through consistent effort. There was one rule in the Bellingham household that a lot of people don't know about. Education always came first. Always. A family friend and former coach once explained that if Jude ever showed signs of slipping, bad behaviour, dropping grades, football would be taken off the table immediately, no matter how well he was playing. Think about that for a second. This was a kid who, by his early teens, was already being talked about as one of the most promising footballers in the country. And his parents still had a rule that could pull it all away in an instant if his education suffered. That's not the mindset of parents chasing fame through their son. That's the mindset of parents trying to raise a good human being first and a footballer second. But that discipline was about to be tested in a way nobody expected. Because Jude's talent was about to grow faster than anyone could have planned for. Jude joined Birmingham City's academy at just 7 years old, and almost immediately, coaches noticed something different about him. He wasn't just quick or skillful, he had this rare combination of physical power and game intelligence that usually doesn't show up in players until much later in their development. By 15, he was already training with Birmingham's under-23 squad. Let that sink in. 15 years old, going up against grown men and holding his own. Then, in August 2019, Birmingham City made a decision that shocked a lot of people. They handed Jude his first team debut. He was 16 years and 38 days old, the youngest player in the club's entire history to play for the first team. Over that season, he played 44 games for Birmingham. And he wasn't just making up the numbers, he was contributing, scoring goals, creating chances, playing like someone twice his age. By the time he left the club, just one season later, Birmingham City did something they almost never do for a young academy player. They retired his number 22 shirt. Think about what that means. Clubs retire numbers for legends, players who spent a decade, sometimes a whole career, giving everything to that badge. And here was a 15-year-old kid given that same honor after barely a season in the first team. But that moment of celebration also marked the beginning of something much harder for the Bellingham family. Because it was about to become clear, Jude couldn't stay in Birmingham much longer, and that decision was going to cost this family more than anyone on the outside could see. By 2020, it was obvious Jude was going to leave Birmingham City. Big clubs were circling. Manchester United wanted him. But Mark and Denise, along with Jude, made a decision that surprised a lot of people. Instead of staying in England, in the comfort of the Premier League system, they chose somewhere completely different, Borussia Dortmund in Germany. Why? Because Dortmund had built a reputation for actually playing their young talents instead of leaving them to rot on a bench. Jude had watched players like Jadon Sancho get real first-team minutes there, and his family believed that path, real experience, real responsibility at a young age would matter more than staying somewhere familiar. In July 2020, the move was confirmed, an initial fee of around £25 million. At the time, that made Jude the most expensive 17-year-old in football history. But here's where the story stops being about football and starts being about family, because Jude was 17, a minor really, moving to a completely different country where he didn't speak the language, didn't know the culture, and would be living without the daily structure he'd had his entire life. So his family made a decision that would quietly reshape their entire lives for years to come. Denise packed up her life in the West Midlands and moved to Germany with her 17-year-old son. Meanwhile, Mark stayed behind in England with Job, who was still coming through Birmingham City's academy, trying to build his own path in the game. Think about what that actually meant. A marriage physically split across two countries. A mother starting over in a foreign country, in a foreign language, with no support system of her own. Purely so her son wouldn't have to face that transition completely alone. A father staying behind to make sure his younger son didn't get forgotten in the shadow of his older brother's rise. That's not a small sacrifice. That's a family quite literally dividing itself so that neither son would be left behind. Jude has spoken about what his mother's presence in Germany meant to him. More than once, and more emotionally than you might expect from a professional athlete. When he was unveiled at Real Madrid years later, he explained that having his mum around kept him balanced, stopping him from getting too low during hard moments or too high after big wins. He described her as a steady presence, someone he genuinely enjoyed spending time with, not just a guardian keeping an eye on him. That's such an important detail, because it tells you something about what Denise actually did during those years in Germany. She wasn't just there logistically, cooking meals and managing schedules. She was there emotionally, protecting a teenage boy from the two things that destroy so many young athletes: arrogance when things go well, and despair when things go badly. Think about the pressure Jude was under during those Dortmund years. He was playing alongside established stars, being watched by scouts from every major club in Europe, carrying the label of the most expensive 17-year-old in history. That's an enormous weight for a teenager. And every single day, his mother was there, quietly making sure that weight didn't crush him. But there's a harder truth buried inside this story too. Because while Denise was building a new life abroad to protect Jude, something back home was quietly changing, and it wouldn't stay hidden forever. Here's the part of the story that a lot of football fans never hear about, because it's not the kind of thing that makes it into a highlight reel. In more recent years, reports emerged from German media suggesting that Mark and Denise Bellingham may have separated after more than 20 years of marriage. The reports pointed to the two of them being seen sitting apart at a Borussia Dortmund match. Neither Mark nor Denise has ever publicly confirmed this, and to this day, both continue showing up together, supporting both of their sons at matches and major events. But whether or not that report is fully accurate, it forces you to ask a difficult question. What does it actually cost a family to split themselves across countries for years, chasing one son's dream? Because here's the truth nobody likes to say out loud. Sacrifice isn't free. When a mother moves to another country for years to support one child, something shifts in a marriage. When a father stays behind, missing years of his eldest son's daily life, so the younger one isn't left in the shadows, something is lost there too. There's no version of this story where the family gives that much and nothing changes. And yet, they kept doing it. Denise stayed in Germany. Then, when Jude signed for Real Madrid, she moved again, this time to Spain, another country, another language, another complete uprooting of her life, just to make sure her son never had to face the pressure of superstardom completely alone. Think about that level of commitment, not for one move, for two entire relocations across Europe, years apart, driven by nothing but love for a son chasing a dream that was getting bigger every single year. While all of this was happening with Jude, there was another boy quietly working just as hard, back in England. His name is Jude Bellingham, Jude's younger brother, born 2 years after him. It would have been easy for Job to get completely lost in his brother's shadow. Imagine growing up as the younger sibling of someone being called the most expensive teenager in football history. That kind of comparison could crush a young athlete before he even had a real chance. But Mark made sure that didn't happen. While Denise was in Germany and later Spain supporting Jude, Mark stayed present for Job's entire journey through Birmingham City's academy. And when Job eventually signed for Sunderland in 2023, Mark made another move, relocating north just to keep showing up for training sessions and matches. Here's where the story gets almost poetic. When Jude left Borussia Dortmund for Real Madrid in 2023, guess who arrived at Dortmund to take his place? Job. The two brothers became the first set of siblings to ever play for Borussia Dortmund in the club's entire history, just not at the same time. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's the direct result of a family that refused to let one son's rise come at the cost of the other's future. Two boys, two completely different paths through the same clubs, the same pressure, the same spotlight. And two parents splitting themselves across countries for years, just to make sure both of their sons had a real shot. But Jude's story was about to take its biggest turn yet. Because Real Madrid, the biggest club in world football, was about to come calling. On June 14th, 2023, Real Madrid officially announced the signing of Jude Bellingham. The fee was a base of around €103 million, with add-ons that could push it even higher. He became the 6th Englishman in history to play for Real Madrid. And then came the shirt number. Jude was handed the number 5, a number once worn by Zinedine Zidane. Not just any legend, one of Jude's own childhood heroes, the man he grew up idolizing. Think about the pressure buried inside that single moment, wearing the shirt number of the exact player who inspired you to fall in love with the game in the first place. Most players would crumble under that kind of symbolic weight. Jude did the opposite. On his debut, away against Athletic Bilbao, he scored. Weeks later, he scored twice and set up a goal in a win at Almeria. Then, he scored a dramatic 95th-minute winner against Getafe in his very first match at the newly renovated Santiago Bernabeu. By the end of that first season, he had put up 19 league goals, numbers that, for a midfielder in his debut season at a club like Real Madrid, were almost unheard of. He helped the team win La Liga and the UEFA Champions League. He picked up the Copa Trophy, the Golden Boy Award, every major prize available to a young player in world football. But here's the twist that made this even more remarkable. None of this happened by accident. Every single record he broke traced directly back to a family that had spent years quietly sacrificing everything behind the scenes just to give him the stability to perform under pressure like that. There's one moment that captures everything this story has been building toward. It happened at Wembley Stadium, in June 2024, after Real Madrid won the Champions League final. In the chaos of celebration, fireworks, teammates screaming, a trophy being lifted in front of tens of thousands of fans, Jude did something incredibly human. He found his mum and dad's faces in the crowd. And afterward, speaking to reporters, he admitted that he had managed to hold himself together throughout the entire night, until that exact moment, standing in front of his parents. That's when the emotion finally broke through. Think about what that tells you. After everything, the goals, the trophies, the records, the millions of fans, the moment that actually got to him wasn't the trophy itself. It was seeing the two people who had sacrificed years of their own lives, split across countries, just to help him get there. That's not the reaction of a player chasing fame. That's the reaction of a son who understood, deep down, exactly what his success had actually cost the people who loved him most. And the story wasn't finished yet. Because in 2026, an even bigger stage was waiting. One that would put the entire Bellingham family back in the spotlight, together. By the time the 2026 FIFA World Cup arrived, Jude Bellingham wasn't just a rising talent anymore. He was one of the central figures of the entire England squad. He scored in England's opening group match against Croatia. He was central to the win over Panama. Then, in the round of 16, he scored twice to help England defeat Mexico. Match after match, tournament after tournament, the same story kept repeating itself. Jude Bellingham showing up in the biggest moments when the pressure was at its absolute highest. And through every single one of those moments, both of his parents remained a constant presence, showing up at matches, in interviews, in photos, still standing together, still supporting both of their sons, regardless of whatever had changed privately behind the scenes over the years. Because here's what's remarkable about this family. Whatever difficulties came from years of sacrifice, years of living apart, years of reshaping their entire lives around their sons' careers, none of it stopped them from showing up every single time. So let's step back for a second. Because when you really look at Jude Bellingham's rise, it's tempting to just talk about the talent, the pace, the strength, the vision on the pitch. But talent alone doesn't explain a 16-year-old holding his own against grown professionals. It doesn't explain a 17-year-old thriving in a foreign country, thousands of miles from home. It doesn't explain a 20-year-old wearing Zinedine Zidane's old number at the biggest club on the planet and somehow performing like he'd been doing it for a decade. What explains all of that is a family that quietly split themselves apart for years just to make sure neither son was left behind. A father who worked night shifts as a police officer, then somehow found the energy to score 700 goals in his own football career, all while raising two boys to be disciplined, humble, and grounded. A mother who left her entire life behind, twice, just so her son would never have to face the loneliest years of his career completely alone. That's the real story behind Jude Bellingham. Not just a young man with incredible talent, a family that gave up comfort, stability, and maybe even parts of their own relationship to build something bigger than any single one of them. So, the next time you watch Jude Bellingham lift a trophy, or score in a World Cup match, or celebrate in front of a roaring stadium, remember what's actually standing behind that moment. A mother in a foreign country, alone for years, just so he wouldn't have to be. A father holding an entire family together from thousands of miles away. A brother quietly building his own path in the shadow of something enormous and somehow still coming out the other side as his own success story. Some sacrifices get remembered forever. Others happen quietly, in empty apartments in foreign countries, in police uniforms after football matches, in phone calls between two parents living in two different countries, trying to hold a family together while chasing a dream that was never guaranteed to work out. This one worked out. But it's worth remembering, it almost never does. If this story meant something to you, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe if you want more stories like this one. There are so many more journeys like this waiting to be told, and I'd love to share the next one with you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.